You in this battle, man, I'll soon be dead. I'll glue your face to my dick so I can fuck with your head. I got metaphors coming through my pores. You probably never been in a battle before, so I hope you realize your mistake. There ain't no party, got some candles, this won't be a piece of cake.
Oh, right, yeah.
They became Buff Boys when I left.
Oh, gotcha.
And now it's Joe and Alex do something, and Matt doesn't have a podcast.
Oh, was Buff Boys a real thing?
Buff Boys is a real podcast.
I was just calling us Buff Boys because we go to the gym.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude. Oh, okay, because I had a podcast with Joe Gorman and Matt Maron called Locker Room Talk, right? And then I left, and then they rebranded, which they didn't have to do.
Yeah,
but they were like, it wouldn't be right. Yeah, it was really nice. I liked it. And but yeah, they were called the Buff Boys.
Yeah.
So off mic, folks, he being our guest today,
Hello.
Bo Ballew.
I'm Bo Ballew.
I almost said Bo Burnham, but that's a different guy.
I would have walked out.
Yeah.
I
Yikes,
will not
dude.
be confused with that lib comedian.
I know. Hey, you know what? He is a lib comedian, but hot take outside. What? I'm a fucking idiot. Inside. That was his COVID special, right? Inside. Very good. Great songs. I put on that album just to listen to the songs. But dude, the second half, I knew what it was going to be, right? I'm like, he's going to cry at some point. He's going to be like, mental health and I'm sad.
COVID art was strange.
Oh, dude. And here's the thing is that he cried once and I was like, all right, the crying part is done. Right. Yeah. I'm a little like my dad in that way. When someone's crying on film, I'm like, this could be over now. You know, this could be done. And then later, he's crying again.
Two times.
And the cynical part of me was like, he had a couple more minutes that he was like, well, I did the crying thing once.
I need to fill some time here.
And I don't know, to me, I'm not flexing on anybody who struggled during lockdown, but I think I'm just dumb enough that during lockdown, I was like, this is fun. I'm watching my shows.
Yeah. I got two things. One, I'm gonna be honest, I really loved Inside when it first came out. Like Unpaid Intern is still like my favorite song from that.
As two men that have been unpaid interns.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's us.
And then I have never revisited it and have no desire to. But I did like it at the time a lot.
That is how you consume, not you specifically. That's how people
you
watch it and you're like, I liked it, but I didn't love it, so I don't have to watch it again.
Yeah, but at the time it felt like something I loved. And I think it was just like the COVID thing. Like I loved Tiger King. I like shit like that. You know, not saying that those are the same thing. And then, oh God, what else did you say? The crying thing. Was it the crying thing?
Yeah, because the whole thing was like a lot of parts were like silly.
Yeah.
But then he did get more political than he's ever been before. But a lot of people in 2020 were doing that.
Yeah,
right?
What a time.
And sorry, go ahead.
So crying bothers you, like when you see it?
I just listen, if you gotta cry, you should cry. I think you should kind of treat it a little bit like diarrhea, like everybody doesn't have to be watching it. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
But for by all means cry. Don't suppress your crying.
We're pro emotions in private on this podcast.
Yeah, there's a limit. I don't know. Because you and I, we're in the same circle of like comedians and Brooklyn comedians. And there's some guys where I'm like, all right, dude, you're going to hate this. Man up a little bit. You are going to, they're like my anxiety. I'm like, you got to talk about something else besides your anxiety, bud.
Yeah. Because I have anxiety. But you know what's really uninteresting after a certain point? Hearing people talk about anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you too? Aw, you and everybody else, you know?
I don't know. To live in New York City and not have, to not be anxious would be crazy.
This city, is made to induce anxiety. Like, if you had experienced no anxiety in New York City, you don't live in New York City. Like, you're not, in the city enough, you know? It's a pressure cooker.
But like anything else, you get used to it, right? To some extent.
Yeah, or at least, learn how to cope with it or whatever, you know, because I do love living in New York, but sometimes do we have to be this intense about everything? I was walking on the sidewalk a couple of days ago and there were two tourists in front of me and they were walking really slowly and kind of taking up space on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I started feeling a panic attack coming on because I was like, I need to get the fuck around these people. What do they have nowhere to be?
And they don't because they're on vacation.
I also had nowhere to be. but I was just like so thrown from my pace,
Yeah.
you know, it like was freaking me out.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what am I freaking out about? You know, it was like a really strange, like even shit like that will like trigger it where it's like, it like threw, I'm a creature of habit, I guess. And it like threw like a wrench into like what I imagined my walk to wherever going, you know?
They weren't following the script.
Yes.
Yeah. I hate when the extras in my life aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's like I thought we had a good director on this
Yeah.
project, you know, God.
Yeah, there is no director. That's you being Nietzsche. That's you and your Nietzsche face,
Oh, sure.
Frederick. But yeah, Bo, it's nice to see you outside of the gym.
You too, man. I
Yeah.
feel like that's where I see you the most now.
It's nice. You are the only non-Hispanic I talk to at the Myrtle
You talk to
Wyckoff
other
gym.
people at the Myrtle Wyckoff Planet Fitness.
I'm so sorry you had to find out this way.
You have other people you say what's up to?
We got Manny. What's up, Manny? And we got Damon.
Well, you're on like name basis with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, because Planet Fitness in general is this weird mishmash of people that are scared of anything besides the treadmill.
Yes.
Right. So they're just like, and most, like half of Planet Fitness is just lines of treadmills
Oh, yeah.
for people to not run on, not jog on, walk on,
Or sometimes just stand on.
stand on.
People at Planet Fitness love taking up a piece of equipment
Uh-huh.
and not using it.
Dude, yikes.
It's the worst, dude. I'm at a point now where like I refuse to wait for a piece of equipment at Planet Fitness where if like someone's doing that, I'm like, well, I guess I'm not doing that today.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't have enough time for this. It's like the get in, get out thing here. It's like I allocate an hour.
Mhm.
And if something eats into that hour, minus talking to you, because also what I think I like about running into you at the gym is if we're talking, I could also be like, hey man, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
You know, I'm like comfortable enough with you to like be like, I have like something going on or whatever,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
And some people you're kind of like, I don't know you well enough to be like, hey man, I can't talk right now, you
Yeah.
know? And you kind of feel like you just have to like,
Well, there's two types of people that go to the gym. There's the get in and get out people,
Mhm.
where you look at it as like, all right, this is I view going to the gym like brushing my teeth.
yeah,
It's just something I have to do,
100%.
and I have to listen to music while I do it because you know, my brain
What do you listen to?
at the gym.
Yeah.
Okay, for a second I was like, or when I brush my teeth.
Oh, that's a more interesting question, honestly.
The brushing of the teeth thing. So here's the thing: is for whatever reason, you know what, you don't get to choose your genes, right?
Yeah.
And I have the bad teeth genes. I don't know what it is. I
Ah.
gotta really pay. I gotta floss. I gotta do the interdental brushes. I gotta do Listerine, right? I gotta give it a good 3 minutes of brushing.
Oh, wow.
So
Twice a day?
twice a day.
Nice.
When I first wake up and before I go to sleep. So because it takes so long, I know that I can't be bored, because if it's a boring process, I will not do it. And then I'll be full cavities.
Yeah.
And I got, you know, my Medicaid dental insurance. So,
Yeah.
which is basically some guy looks at your teeth from like a mile away. And then he's like, I don't know, maybe brush more. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, it looks like it's still in your mouth.
Yeah.
So.
Which to quite honestly puts you miles ahead of all my other patients.
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing worse than seeing a guy with like missing teeth. You're
Oh,
like,
dude.
fuck, dude.
Unless if it's someone who's like funny and they have like one of their front teeth missing.
Yeah.
Like, there are a couple comedians right now that like Gabby or something.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a look.
You know
And
what's
I fuck
funny is
with
we
it.
had her on the podcast and we went the whole hour without talking that she got hit in the face with a baseball bat
Oh, really?
during a baseball game, I should say, or
Yeah.
a softball game.
That's
and
an
if you know
important
Gabby, that makes
caveat.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she freaked me out when I saw her for the first time because she has like a false tooth that she could take out and in,
That's so sick.
and she just took it out in front of me, knowing that I didn't know about
And
it.
you'd be like, what the fuck?
Dude.
Would you sacrifice like a piece of your body for like not something like an eye? Well, maybe it depends on how far with this bit you want to go.
Okay.
Like, I guess really it would be like a tooth would be the only thing I'd be willing to sacrifice for this, for like the ability to do that bit to people.
Oh.
Like if you could like remove a finger and be like, you know,
Yikes, dude.
a toe maybe. A toe could go, I
Yeah.
think, depending on the toe.
A toe. I don't know. But how often are you showing your feet to people in public?
Yeah, that's a good point. I wear shoes often.
I mean, I have an OnlyFans for my feet, so that's a separate
yeah, but imagine
situation.
if you were the 9-toed wonder of OnlyFans.
Ooh, okay. I already fill the boxes of a lot of gay men's fetishes. I got red hair.
Nice.
Right. I have a young face.
Nice.
You know what I mean? If you put a
Bang and bod.
bang and bod, thank you for saying it so I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I was going to.
I got you.
And as we all know, a bang and bod. Right.
That's the only adjective you will receive when someone's talking about your body. If they say you have like a muscular body, you're like, no, banging.
Oh, speaking of which, dude, you asked. So my brushing the teeth music, it's just whatever happens to be on. I find that if I put on my favorite song before bed, I'll be too excited for bedtime.
That's valid.
But at the gym, it's all rap music, dude.
Yeah, like Eminem.
Eminem, early aughts in general, just like fuck you up music in general.
Yeah.
You gotta. I'm just dumb enough where I'm like, if I'm lifting the heavy stones, I also have to have the angry music playing.
I sometimes like Metallica was one of my most listened to bands this
Hell
year
yeah.
because I listened to them at the gym a lot.
Mhm.
So sometimes if I'm going angry, I'll go, or it's something like that. But energy is more important to me than tone. Like
Okay.
if it's like something like upbeat, like indie rock, I could do that. You know, I'll do like rap sometimes too. Like I did the new Kendrick album for a while.
Hell yeah, dude.
Eminem I'll go to sometimes. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast. Like if I'm feeling the gym enough, like because some days you're just like, I just gotta like make myself do it.
Right.
Then that's where like the Metallica or something comes in. But sometimes I'm like, like I don't like if I'm like don't need that extra pep, then if I'm like listening to a podcast, I'll be like, well, I'll just keep listening to the podcast.
I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast at the gym.
Really?
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I listen to podcasts a decent amount.
Just like hitting your PR and the background music is like and the spider monkeys are indigenous to Bangladesh. I love learning,
especially here.
Hell yeah, dude. But the planet, we go to the same one, the Brooklyn Planet Fitness in Bushwick. It's kind of it's people that it's the cheapest option for a lot of people. So it's just people that aren't necessarily like, they're just regular people, right? And then you have people that are psychopaths, right?
Dude,
they love lifting, but they also only have $10 a month. I assume they have more than $10 a month.
But expendable for a gym membership.
Yeah.
There's one guy there who's been really bugging me recently. Okay. I don't know his name, but he's like a middle-aged guy. And I think he gets off on like using multiple pieces of equipment at the same time so he could tell someone he's using it. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like I've stood around and kind of been like, is this guy using it? And he's like, yeah, I'm using it. You know, or like once he was like, you can use this, just ask. And he like lectured me on like gym etiquette. I was like, you're a dick, dude. I hate this guy. Yeah, and he's there every time I'm there.
I want to sodomize this guy with a plumber snake.
Next time you're there and I'm there and he's there, because he's there every time I'm there, I'll point him out to you.
Thank you, man. I have. Dude, one time I went to use the dips, right? And there was a guy next to the tricep press, right?
Yeah.
And as you know, I'll say for the listeners, you know they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
So he's doing the tricep press. He's literally doing it. He's pushing them up and down. And I go next to him to start doing dips. And he stops what he's doing to tell me that he's using this machine. And I'm so not confrontational, but I went, you're using this machine. And I put like, as he's sitting at the other one, and he just looks at me and goes, yeah. And I'm like, all right, man. And I was like, I will go to prison if I let this go on anymore.
That's ridiculous. Because if you're using multiple machines, do you usually go this gym heavy and conversation on this podcast?
But you know what? I want to talk about it with someone because I haven't been in several weeks.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a little bit.
You haven't seen me. My shoulder would not. And now I'm trying. Now it's good.
Yeah.
But I hope it stays that way. I've had a bad shoulder for, it seems like my entire life now. It's only been a few weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And so whenever I get a little bit of pain anywhere, right.
Nice.
I do a deload week, right? So I either do instead of 3 sets of 12, I do 8 sets of 12, same weight, or I do 2/3 of the weight, same reps. You know what I mean? Just to
Oh.
give myself a break. And I do that every 6 weeks anyway, just to keep myself from getting burnt out.
Yeah.
But if anything, if one day, one part of my body, and I think part of it is just being 34, right? But if one of my body's being weird, I'm like, deload week, right? So I did a deload week. My shoulder still hurt. I was like, I'm taking a full week off.
Yeah.
My shoulder hurt the entire time. I did another deload week.
Uh-huh.
And then it was started to be okay. Then I was going to failure again, and my shoulder's like, you can't do this.
Oh.
So I talked to a buddy of I talked to a buddy of mine, and he was like, your shoulder? And I was like, yeah. And he's a guy that works out a lot, and he's like, you have to stop for like a whole month. And then I had the reaction that I assume you would have, which is, I can't.
I will lose my mind.
I will go insane.
We're
But
sober guys too. That's an important
it is, dude.
aspect of our gym discussion.
Mhm.
Is we're sober guys who have gone the gym route of sobriety.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple routes you could take. You know?
God, cigarettes, coffee.
Yeah.
Gym is the fourth one.
Yeah. It's like junk food, get fat,
Mm-hmm.
nicotine, which is a part of mine too.
Yeah.
But that was part of my life before sobriety. I just use sobriety as an excuse to really indulge.
There you
You know?
Mhm.
And then there's like spirituality
Mhm.
and gym.
Okay.
I'm sure there are others. I'm sure some people are feeling unseen by our breakdown of sobriety,
Mhm.
but those are the big ones I feel like I see, you
Mhm.
know, or like BDSM is probably one too. You know?
Yikes, dude.
Yeah. I mean, there are rave people, there are sober rave people. That's a wild one. That's the one that makes the least amount of sense to me.
Sober rave people.
Yeah. People who just go to raves and shit.
Sober?
Yeah.
I thought the whole thing was like, hey, this looks stupid to you, but we're all on ecstasy.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a big part of it, but there's also like the sober people who love raving. It's a real thing.
Huh.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It makes no fucking sense. Because the only way a rave is tolerable, in my opinion, is drugs.
Yeah.
So to like remove drugs, I'd be like, oh, I died and I'm in hell for
Mhm.
something. You know what I mean? I was like, what did I do to get here? You
Mhm.
know, I fucked up somewhere.
Yeah.
But that we went the gym route, you know.
Yeah. And then I think there's worse routes that you can go.
Because
And
we're also not like annoying gym guys. Which some
we're
people
not
are.
blasting tests now.
Well-
Any of my fans wanted to slide in my DMs and let me know how to get it.
Oh, what?
Test testosterone.
Oh, sure.
I'm just joking.
No, he's not.
Dude, I'd be one of those guys that if I took any, shall we say, vitamin S, right? If I took any special sauce, so to speak, I would have all of the side effects happen to me. My
Oh,
hair would fall out. I'd get man
100%.
titties. I'd get acne everywhere.
God, you would look good with man tits, though. Oh man, you would
Man
look.
tits, 9 toes.
You would look great with a rack, Bobby.
Thank you. You should have seen me from 23 to 25.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, I had little. Well, I wasn't so fat that they were full on breasts, but they were. Will I get demonetized for this? Maybe they were like.
You're monetized?
No. They looked like, shall I say, like new breasts, right?
Oh, like
at 23 to
puberty
25,
breasts,
I looked like a 12 to 13-year-old girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yikes! Don't clip that, guys. Do not take that out of
He's
context.
speaking to himself.
I'm talking about my own body, right? So, yeah. I think the thing about going to the gym is if you go too much, it literally hurts your gains.
Yeah.
So it's something that if you do overdo it, you're literally counteracting what you want from it.
So where is that line?
So as a guy that does not have a doctorate in anything, does not have a master's degree in anything, but I spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos, which apparently makes you an expert, right?
Yeah,
That's how
it's
Dave Smith became a foreign policy expert.
Yeah, there we go. See?
But my understanding is that the most you can do is an hour and a half a day for 6 days a week. If you're
so
doing
that's
more
still
than that,
a lot.
it's still a lot. That's why I did see this video one time. I forget who it was, but the title was, and of course it's kind of clickbaity, but it said, "You're not overtraining." Because there's this whole idea about like, oh, am I overtraining?
Yeah.
And it's like, probably not. It's probably fine. Because I
Yeah.
don't know many people in my life that do more. An hour and a half, 6 days a week is 9 hours, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of gym time.
Yeah, that's a part-time job.
What so how often are you there when you're healthy?
Yeah. When I'm not crippled, dude. You know what's hilarious too? If I actually do take a full month off, my first day back is going to be, that's right, January 1st.
Oh,
Isn't that silly?
That is silly.
Me and all the resolution people.
Yeah. Oh man, Planet Fitness is gonna like moths to a flame.
Yep.
Of resolution people. It's like open mics. Like Planet Fitness is the open mic of gyms.
Because open mic comedians, a lot of people start doing open mic comedy as their resolution. And a lot of people that really should have quit a long time ago go, okay, I guess in January, I'm going to really start doing it.
Yeah.
You know? Which is like, at that point, just like go bowling or something.
Yeah. Well, bowling's fun.
I do love bowling,
it's
dude.
the best, dude.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then like, cause Planet Fitness is crowded anyways. And I forgot that those people are going to be there soon, but they'll fall off pretty quick. Planet Fitness, if you're not disciplined, isn't a good gym to make you disciplined about going to the gym.
Really?
I think.
Why is that?
Especially back when I started going, back when they had pizza and stuff, you know? Like I used to say that Planet Fitness, I think as a gym existed so people could tell themselves they had a gym membership.
Right.
And they wanted you to be an unhealthy person, but you were like, well, I always have this gym membership that I never go to.
I would be interested if you could like see the analytics of gym memberships, Planet Fitness gym memberships, how many people literally don't go or almost never go.
Probably
that has to be their business model, right?
Yeah, 100%. But Planet Fitness, especially ours, is like strange where it's like you were saying, like there are people who are really into going to the gym, and then there are the people who sit on their phones. And then there's like a middle class, which is like there are a lot of people like who like are in good shape and stuff at Planet Fitness. But like I think Planet Fitness is more defined by the extremes of the people that go to Planet Fitness. And I think I exist like upper middle class, you know, probably you too, of like if upper class is people who are super into it and the lower class is people who sit on their phones.
We are the white collar workers who will be the first ones to be replaced by artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, dude, that's what I've been thinking about. I like literally anything I've ever done for money. Except for when I was like working with kids, can literally be done by robots probably in my lifetime.
Oh, 100%. Like I just got a new job. I'm starting a new job in January. Ooh. So I'm about to be employed again.
Hell yeah.
But I've been in the customer service for tech company Racket for 5 years, 6 years. And that whole job like can be done by AI, really. It would be bad customer service. But the reason why they hire people to do it, at least at this point, is because AI is not good enough to like provide humanity, and they want to like tell people that they have a human. Like I don't do stuff that a code couldn't do,
right?
But they want to they like telling people that a person's doing this. And that's where your boy comes in.
You know, it's hilarious. I'm sure they don't do it this way, but if they call you and then you're asking the GBT.
Oh yeah, dude, all the time.
But dude, I like, cause I've had jobs like that too. And it's usually older people and they just like are lonely.
Yeah.
So you actually fulfill like the type of people that are so lonely that they're actually not annoyed that they have to call customer service. Cause they're like, now I get to talk to somebody.
Yeah. I've had customer service jobs like that too. But like my last couple of customer service jobs have been for like an app. So it's like people who like kind of actually need help and are pissed off that they like need help because technology's confusing, you know? Like at my last job, most of my job was being a middleman between the customer and engineers. And they'd be like, hey, this thing is like not working. And I'd be like, yeah, it's not. And then I'd flag to like an engineer because I can't fix an app. You know, I can identify that the app isn't working.
Yeah. that's such a funny position to be in. You're like, I know when something's not working because I try to use it and it doesn't work.
So I can I have a direct line of communication to the people who can. And let me tell you, this isn't the first time today I've told them something's not working. So your request probably gonna be a little bit.
Do you have the new job anxiety?
You know what it is? It's not excitement. It's not like it's relief teetering on dread.
Yeah.
Because I love being unemployed.
It's so fun.
Being unemployed is the best. Ballew 2024.
When you don't have, children and you're like, I'll get something eventually. It really is just like, all right, I guess I will sleep for 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I'll do that.
The only thing I didn't like about being unemployed was knowing it was going to end and not wanting to get too comfortable. But let me tell you, I got comfy over there. It's the best.
I went to Japan.
I went to Japan. I fucking didn't have to work. I was getting unemployment, and I still am for a couple weeks because I don't start for a little bit. But like I had savings and I was getting unemployment, so rent and utilities covered by unemployment, and then just trying to be a little more frugal and taking money out of savings when I needed to. And it was like I was like, I'm not worried about money right now because of unemployment is an incredibly valuable government service that I think is going to go away in the next administration.
If you are part of that department, please turn off this podcast. Bo is just joking. It's totally not something that anybody is taking advantage of.
Well, I was looking for a job, you know what I mean? But it saved my life. I'd be on my parents' couch right now if I didn't have unemployment.
That is the scariest prospect, by the way, as an adult man.
Yeah,
to be like, I'll have to live with my parents
until
again.
I find a job.
Because it's as attractive as having your penis severed off.
But when I started applying for unemployment, so what they did, because whatever bureaucratic genius realized this, is they felt like they were giving out unemployment too easily during COVID. So what they did was, your first couple of weeks of being on unemployment, you have to be on observed unemployment, where you're going through the process and you're filing it all every week. But for 2 weeks, they're not giving you money. Because what they're hoping is that you're going to be like, well, fuck this. I need to find a job, you know? So it's like that, besides that, I've been getting however much I've been getting from the government, which isn't a ton, but it's enough to pay rent and utilities. But it's like, it's gonna go away. The next administration with the Doge department, people are gonna be fucked. So
Dude,
if you're gonna lose your job, lose it now.
Yeah, start behaving like Saul Goodman.
Yeah,
and wear bright, play bagpipes at work.
Yeah, do something that you really you can't get in trouble for, but is going to bother people enough that they have to fire you to stop. You know what date I start my new job? January 6th.
Oh,
isn't that rude to start a job on a holiday?
Isn't it weird that January 6th is kind of like 9/11, except half the country doesn't think it was a big deal? Isn't that weird?
It's like, I was talking with someone about it, and they said that their girlfriend's birthday was January 6th. I was like, that is a funny day to have your birthday.
Yep.
9/11, our generation, I tried to explain to my parents that people our age, will make 9/11 jokes.
Right.
And they couldn't fathom that there is humor to be found in 9/11.
Right.
January 6th, much more approachable to make jokes about. I guess because less people died.
And it wasn't successful.
Yeah. And
9/11, say what you will. It was successful.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say that January 6th was successful, just took 4 years.
I see what you mean.
Because, what they wanted happened.
Yeah.
Just 4 years later. Because January 6th are the people who are like, oh, this is bad. This is an existential threat to democracy. There are people who are like, this is kind of crazy. There are people who are for, and the people in the middle who are like, this is kind of crazy. All voted for Trump, you know? So,
well, and that's people I can't reach, because if I'm like, listen, the sitting president at the time, Trump, was like, I won the election, and he knew he lost, or should have known that he lost.
He knew. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, that's such a like an egregious violation of norms.
Yeah. You're a
So-
history guy. What is there another president who would have done something remotely similar to that?
That's the thing. When people ask me who's the worst president, and I say Trump, and they're like, "You're being kind of emotional with recency bias right now, aren't you?" I'm like, "I'm literally not."
Okay, so more interesting question. Who's the second worst president?
So it is and it's hard because it's the predecessor of Lincoln and the successor of Lincoln. So it's almost like, oh, well, are you comparing him to Lincoln? No, they're both terrible for different reasons. So
Who was the predecessor?
predecessor was James Buchanan, who, side note, was probably gay. That's not why he's a bad president.
Oh, so we had two in a row. Buchanan, then Lincoln?
Lincoln was
Wow.
okay. Okay. I have this weird thing when people are like, Lincoln was gay, where because I know so much about Lincoln that it just annoys me that that's a misconception. I don't think it's true, but if I express it in an incorrect way, I sound homophobic.
Totally. And I know nothing. So I'm not.
It's like saying Denzel Washington is Chinese. I go, no, he's not. It doesn't mean I hate Chinese people.
So Buchanan was, though.
He probably was gay.
And that's not what made him a bad president.
Not what made him a bad president. What made him a bad president was, okay, so he was the president before Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
So he was the lame duck president after Lincoln's election, right?
Yeah.
And so you had 11 Confederate states, right? 7 of those 11 states seceded right after Lincoln became president.
Was that like the event that they were like, if Lincoln wins, we're out?
The 7 most southern Confederate states, they were like, yeah, we're not living in a country where an anti-slavery guy can be president. We hate that.
So that's Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina? Because I
North
I
Carolina.
can't remember how far west America.
I'll see if I can do it. So yes, South Carolina, that was the first one, right? Mississippi.
Which is why they're first in the primaries.
Yes. Yeah.
In honor.
Yeah, in honor of the Confederacy. So you have South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, sorry.
And Florida. And
Florida.
Alabama, all states I've lived in.
And I'm forgetting the last one. And then the 4
Kentucky.
No, Kentucky was Union the whole time.
No shit.
That's a weird one.
Tennessee.
Tennessee was one of the 4 that seceded later.
Okay, because West Virginia exists because they didn't want to secede, right?
Yeah.
So we're missing one. Arkansas was Arkansas a state then?
Yes, I can't remember if it was the initial one
Because
or
they
the
were a
one later.
Confederate state for sure,
Yeah,
right?
You know what? Hey, Connor, can you Google first 7 Confederate states?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to move on unless
You like the listeners don't care at all, but you and I are a little too autistic to be like, wait, we have to know.
I like history just enough to like want to know.
So while Connor's looking that up, so the first 7 states to seceded because Lincoln was elected president.
Yeah.
Right. And so that caused the secession crisis. And what Buchanan did, it's a little more complicated than this, but for simplicity's sake, he basically said, hey, secession is wrong, but I won't do anything to stop it, which is just such a milquetoast. It's like
It sounds like something a modern Democrat would do.
and he was a Democrat, so yeah.
Like that's the exact type of thing, just to like not ruffle as few feathers as possible.
Which made him hated by everybody because the Confederates still hated him.
Yeah.
And then the Unionists hated him too. So he kind of like nobody was a Buchanan guy.
It's amazing
'Cause of
that
that.
even back then when Democrats were the more conservative party, still possessed a severe inability to govern efficiently. That's pretty amazing. That policies change, but we still can't govern.
So
I've got these states for you.
All right.
All right, let's hear it.
So it's South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas.
Yeah, those are the first 7. Okay.
It's all who you'd expect, right? Like the people who would be most mad about slavery being outlawed.
And then I think the next ones were so the next 4 states
Were there
seceded.
15 total?
There were 11.
11. Okay.
There were so the first 7 that Connor just mentioned, they seceded after Lincoln became president. And then Lincoln became was elected president, and then he became president. And then a few weeks later, because at the time you were inaugurated in March, there was a longer lame duck period because the election was still in November, but you weren't.
Why is that? Just because it probably took longer to get votes in and stuff? But that doesn't make a ton of sense.
No, because they were certified on January 6th. Isn't it crazy? Even that one went over better than the 2020 election.
That's amazing.
I think it took people a while to be like, to have a lame duck presidency for that long is weird. November to March.
I mean, it probably was because it was like, it gives them too much time to do real policy, which Biden has admirably shown he will do nothing in his lame duck. He's like a lame duck in the purest sense of the word, lame duck. The only thing he did was have Trump over for dinner or whatever.
Aww, that's nice.
Yeah, it is
dude.
nice.
What bothers me about sorry, I got to put a pin in explaining the rest of the secession crisis.
Sure.
So after so the Confederates attacked Fort Sumter while Lincoln was president, right? And that was the first shots of the Civil War. And
Where
then
is Sumter?
It's in South Carolina.
It's in South Carolina.
So South Carolina was the first state to secede, and their militia was the first state to attack the U.S. Army.
Gotcha.
So South Carolina is they've always they love doing secession, dude. It's literally their favorite thing. But then Lincoln was like, all right, I would try to be nice, but you guys literally attacked a U.S. fort, so I'm sending troops down. And at the time, the army was like very tiny, so he asked for 75,000 volunteers to invade the South. And then that was the last straw for Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas, I want to say.
So they were like, it's cool if South Carolina attacks you,
right?
But you hitting back.
They were called the Upper South, and they had sort of weird allegiances where they leaned south, but they weren't like what they called back then fire eaters. Fire eaters were people that were like they had a boner for like seceding, right?
Yeah.
But Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, they were like more moderate, but they couldn't. They were like, well, it's almost like, I don't want mom and dad to get divorced, but if the divorce is going to happen, I know who I want to live with.
I'm going to live with my racist
dad. I knew the dad was going to be mom is status quo. Mom is the union. Mom is like, why don't, everybody be nice? And then the dad is sort of the energy of like, well, I'm not getting my way, so I'm packing my bags and leaving.
Yeah.
Which is what the Confederacy did. And the comments in this video are going to be crazy.
This is the most divorced podcast of all time.
Yeah.
We have talked about going to the gym, sobriety, not World War II. Sorry, we can get there if you want to.
We'll get there eventually.
I love talking World War II, the Civil War. Yeah, I mean, that kind of played out kind of almost exactly like I would have imagined if I learned the events of the Civil War accurately in Texas. They were big on states' rights.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
and then the classic subjoiner to that is like the states' rights to do what?
Yeah, it was like they almost like Robert E. Lee. We were kind of taught as like this like noble bastion of ideology who was like anti-slavery, but so believed in a state's right to have slaves that is why he went with the South. Not because he agreed with them, but he was so ideologically sound in their right to choose that if they so please.
Yeah, I think it's sort of right.
I'm sure that is kind of it, but that also means he was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like,
didn't he stand up for what he believed in? I guess
what he believed in was incorrect, and I guess you could say he stood up for that. But that was like, it wasn't taught to us in a way where it was like he believed in like a fallacy. He believed in a state to be a slave state if it chose to. They were like, it was almost a noble cause of him to like, you know what I mean?
That's where that's the difference between, you know, a New York State education and a Texas
Like
education.
where in New York State, I imagine it was like he almost had this like confounding sense of like belief in this versus like, wasn't it just like, it's almost like admirable that he went and fought for this.
Yeah, it's interesting because in high school, I went to Catholic school and very, very conservative. But because we're north of the Mason-Dixon line, we got the South seceded because of slavery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was like, I mean, you can't avoid the slavery thing, but it was like the slavery, like, it wasn't like, it was like just more the states' right to, like, it led with states' right and under states' rights fell slavery, you know?
You know why I think that is like we had a pretty good reconciliation in terms of civil wars. Most civil wars end with a genocide.
Yeah.
We didn't have one. I mean, there was war crimes. There were especially war crimes against black soldiers, but there wasn't a giant
like mass execution.
Yeah, and in that sense, it's actually kind of miraculous how well we were able to like unify again.
Yeah, by a Band-Aid for 200 years.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny if you look at like an electoral map, you're like, this looks very similar.
There were two brief periods of mass unity since then. World War II, Great Depression and the World War II.
Yeah.
Post 9/11.
Yes.
And that was a particularly short one. But like World War II, there was a period of time which is like amazing to imagine where all Americans agreed that Nazis were bad.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That like, and now like I love World War II history. So like, especially this time of year, I go deep into like found footage. Like Netflix always seems to release like one every winter time. Like we took footage from World War II and colorized it and have history professors from liberal arts schools tell you about it. And it's like the best. But there was a lot of unity going on there. We all agreed this, like, we didn't want to go to that war, but when we went to that war, we all agreed who was in the wrong here. It was the imperialism of the Japanese in the Pacific and the fascism of Nazis in Europe. And now
and Italy, the Jan Brady of the
we
conflict.
always forget about them. Like, isn't that so funny? Like Mussolini, like kind of is almost like a joke.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, my very limited understanding is that like Hitler was disappointed that Italy was more useless than he had anticipated.
Yeah. 100%.
Like the German soldiers actually had to like save the Italian soldiers at multiple points.
Well, as the Allies made their way into the European continent from Italy, they were fighting Germans, not Italians. The Italians gave up pretty quick.
This is so difficult. I hate fighting the war. I just want to make a pizza.
I just wanted my mozzarella.
All right, 3 Italian guys. Sorry, you're not listening anymore.
Or they were like, that is the most tasteful Italian accent I've ever heard. Oh, Sicily, huh? Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. It's interesting. So few unifying events. Although I will say, going back to the example of like other countries that's had civil wars, I think we exaggerate our differences. I think we're more alike. I think
so too. At the end of the day, I do agree. But I think it doesn't feel like, it feels like we're more divided than ever, but we're not at war with each other. So that can't be true. You know what I mean?
It's also a thing of like, I remember one time I heard Putin talking about, you know, when he first invaded Ukraine, and it was for the very noble reasons of denazifying Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic. In case you didn't know, I was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
But he was like, you know, in Ukraine and even in the US, there are people with swastika flags marching down the street, and we don't have that in Moscow. I'm like, yeah, dude, because we have freedom of speech and you don't.
Yeah.
That's great. He was like, we arrest any dissidents, and now we don't have dissidents. I'm like, well, that's kind of missing
That's
the
not
point.
a lack of dissidence.
Yeah,
by killing. It's funny how often like someone who opposes Putin dies. You know what I mean? And like there's no winking and like the messaging from Russia about it. It's just like, oh, and blah blah. Craziest thing, fell out of a window today.
A lot of them are self-defenestrated.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And we were talking about this outside too. We're really going places here today. Like we were talking about this, how like the right has kind of like appropriated Russia in a really like
They simp
unsettling
for Russia
way.
so much. Dude.
It's really strange. Like Tucker Carlson's always in Russia talking about how great things are over there. It's like, what happened to Ronald Reagan's right?
Yeah,
you know, at least Ronald Reagan's right was like, it was evil, but it wasn't pathetic.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Tucker Carlson is pathetic.
I think so.
I think that is the adjective I would use too.
Yeah, like these like did you see that speech Tucker Carlson gave at a Trump campaign rally where he kept calling like Trump daddy, and he was like, daddy's gonna win and daddy's pissed and he's gonna come home and he loves his children, but he's gonna punish his children for what they did, referring to letting Biden win an election. And it was like talking about how daddy was going to spank America back.
Getting
in the
hard,
shape.
dude.
It was really like erotic and like, like disturbing.
That the popularity of Tucker Carlson is like congruent with the popularity of like the just asking questions people.
Yeah.
It's because I mean you should be skeptical, but when you're skeptical to a point of like, well, maybe Russia isn't so bad.
That's not skepticism.
Maybe Iran has some good points. Maybe North Korea. Dude, I stumbled across a subreddit called Moving to North Korea, which I thought was satire. But when you look at the sidebar, it says this is not a satire page. And the whole thing is about how great North Korea is.
Like so people from like the West who have moved to North Korea.
Now you would think that, Bo, right? People from the West that have moved to North Korea. No, it's people in the West that like North Korea.
Oh, that like are like, I want to move to North Korea.
And the thing is, they can. Literally nobody's stopping them, but they don't.
Because they don't actually want to.
Because they don't actually want to.
But there is something where it's like, I think people like, there is like a strong portion of the Trump supporting population that want a dictatorship. You know, they want like a royal family, like the Baron Trump obsession. Do you see this online? People are obsessed with that guy. I had a buddy.
He is the strangest looking man I've ever seen.
Baron Trump. Yeah, because
him and Jay Leno are tied for #1 strangest looking person.
They do kind of exist in the same thing, because like Melania's hot, and Trump obviously is just like the sexiest man alive.
All right.
So it's like he's Trump with a little bit softer features from like his mom, but he still kind of looks like Trump. And there is something very strange about Baron Trump. But I had a buddy refer to Baron Trump as the boy king one time.
Dude, but he's spurred up though, right?
Well, people like to credit him with like Trump's podcast run. Why wasn't he here?
Oh yeah, I DM'd
You didn't
him,
have
but
Trump?
Yeah, I thought it would.
Could you imagine Trump coming to East Williamsburg to
I would love
do
that,
a podcast here? That would have been so wild.
It would. Would I do it? Probably not. Actually, my podcast is so little that it would be like hilarious to have him on.
Like he just somehow through the algorithm found your podcast and like loves it for whatever. After this episode, he's probably not a fan.
But when he went on Theo Von, I was like, that's kind of lame.
Yeah.
I like Theo Von's podcast. And he's having Trump and JD Vance on. I don't like it.
Yeah. There is something where it's like, yeah, everyone should be interviewed and like, but comedians aren't supposed to be the people who are doing this, you know?
Yeah. It's this weird, because I don't personally know anybody besides my parents that watches cable.
Yeah.
So I think the Trump campaign was very smart, and they were like, listen, anyone too young to remember the Cold War is literally not watching CNN.
Yeah.
What are they watching? And then it just, they were like, oh, free form podcasts. And and it works the best. And I do a free form podcast, so I'm not dumping on them, but the format lends itself best to Republicans, because right now Republicans can't say anything wrong because of Trump. They literally cannot say. Whereas like Al Franken like was weird when he took a picture with a woman
And had to resign.
and now they're like, you're gone forever.
yeah. Like one of the good
You ask
senators.
people what Al Franken did, and they were like, oh, he it's problematic. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, no one really knows.
It's crazy. So that's why I think Harris goes on Call Her Daddy, which is Rogan for girls, right?
Yeah.
And they have a nice conversation, right? And which is great because all the working class men that live in East Pennsylvania are listening to Call Her Daddy, right? So it's perfect. They're already all listening to that. So it's great, right? But
She got a lot of new voters from that podcast.
Yeah.
apparently.
I mean, it is. I'm being an asshole because I think part of it is not just like getting undecided voters, but galvanizing your base. Like
Yeah.
people that like you, but like might stay home because people are fucking lazy. Or did you ever see that? It was a story trending for a while that like the number one thing people Googled on election day was, did Joe Biden drop out?
Yeah, I saw
Because
that.
people literally looked at their ballot and they're like, where's Joe Biden?
Yeah, it's like that's like the like New York bubble stuff
Mhm.
that like you're kind of like, oh my God, I'm in the like top percentile of Americans who are in the know. And
Yeah.
I know nothing.
That's bad.
Like if you know that Joe Biden wasn't in the election anymore, you're at least in the top half of like informed people in America.
And only half of people vote. So you got to figure that you're in the top 75%.
But
Or the top 25%.
yeah, right. Yeah. But like the bubble
I'm
thing.
talking about how stupid people are. I can't do simple fractions.
But my parents live in Texas, and I was talking to my parents, and I was I'd convinced myself Kamala Harris was going to win the election. And I talked to my parents went to a wedding the weekend before the election, and they called me after, and they were like, I think Trump's going to win. And I was like, why? And they were like, we're at this wedding, and everyone was voting for Trump. This they were like, I don't think this you know how there was that like Democratic thing of like, get your wives don't have to tell their husbands who they're voting for. And they were like, there are people in the shadows who are going to vote for Kamala.
Right.
They're like, I don't think that person exists. And I was like, well, you guys need to like expand your bubble who you're around, because
Meanwhile, you're walking around Bushwick and you're like, no one here is voting for Trump.
and that was like, I was deeply embarrassed for like just for the third election in the row, convincing myself Trump wasn't going to win and only being right one time,
Yeah.
you know? And then also, the comedian thing has been very strange and being like, oh, are we responsible for this in some like tangential way, you know? So this hasn't been a very funny podcast. I apologize. I feel like I've taken us not to Bit City this time.
Sometimes we can't go to Bit City.
Yeah.
Bit City kind of sounds like Tit City. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do. This is stuff we got to talk about, though.
We gotta. I think that, and I've talked about this before, but when Tony Hinchcliffe made a okay roast joke about Puerto Ricans,
I would say okay is generous. You know,
but it was like I've been to enough comedy shows where I'm like, that would get a laugh.
100%.
But the difference between it working in front of Trump's audience and it working in front of a random audience is, for the latter, you'd have to do a lot of. Hey, I'm a silly Billy doing.
Yes.
I'm being a goose right now.
There's context of I'm at a roast show versus context of like, oh, the potential next president of the United States is speaking like what he believes.
Right. And my thing is like, because I saw the headline, right? Comedian makes racist jokes about Puerto Ricans, and I didn't know the exact joke, but I'm like, I know what happened. I do
Yeah.
comedy. I know what the joke was.
You can A to C that joke pretty easily.
Yeah. So and then I know that most people, they don't know that if they hear a joke for the first time and it's not in a context of like, ooh, I'm about to hear a joke, that they're not gonna laugh.
Yeah.
And so I knew, and listen, I don't want to flex, but I knew Trump was gonna win. So while I was at the Planet Fitness, full circle.
Look
right?
at us.
This is narrative, dude.
Nice.
I was on the gym treadmill. I saw Tony. I knew it was Tony Hinchcliffe. Comedian makes racist joke at Trump rally. I'm like, he's gonna win, and comedy is going to be so hard to do again.
I know. Oh man, how long? When he won in 2016, were you doing comedy at that point?
Yeah. So
how long had you been doing it?
Like not even a year. And I remember when he first won, I like took a break because I was like, it's gonna be annoying. I took a full week off, which at the time was the longest I'd ever like.
Yeah, you're in that like neurotic grind set stage.
I
too.
was grind. Yeah, I was on that grind set, but I have this rule about not canceling spots, so I didn't cancel any spots, but I didn't ask for any more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just sort of like just took it easy. And yeah, the first few were weird. The day after was weird. The next day after was weird. And then finally but the difference, I think, between the right and the left now in America is that when the left loses, we go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the right is like, we have to attack the Capitol. You know what I mean? That's what my mom said. My mom was like, the silver lining of this is that we will have a peaceful transfer of power.
That is depressing in how like real of a point that is. Because I remember like being like, oh, if Kamala wins this election, I think January 6th is going to look small.
Right.
You know?
I was actually nervous. I'm like, I want her to win, but unless she wins in a landslide. And even then, I'm like, people are so conspiratorial in their thinking now that we will have like January 6th part 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I like that they would go with Electric Boogaloo. I always wondered what the colon January 6th.
Honestly,
colon.
that's what makes being a comedian annoying right now. Not just because I don't have any money, but because like there were memes there were a lot of like silly meme people at January 6th, right?
Yeah.
Like people were like wearing costume. It looked like Comic-Con in some places, right?
Yes.
Which is why it's very easy to dismiss what it was, because you could cherry pick photos of like
the old woman or the QAnon shaman or
like,
whoever.
yeah, there are police officers like shoved in door frames too.
Yes.
But people are like, yeah, we don't have consensus anymore. This is why this is all happening. I think people see what they want to see and what the algorithm shows them. But we don't watch the same news anymore.
Yeah, no, they're like, because where do you get your news from that you're like, oh, I'm actually getting like news?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you list off like MSNBC, I'm like, yeah, but that's not news.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News, definitely don't trust that.
Mm-hmm.
News Nation, in a hotel, I trust it. You know?
Like everything else, your standards go down when you're in a hotel. You're
Yeah.
like, I'll have these little soap things and I'll listen to that news station.
Yeah,
you know?
But it's like in South Korea, everything that just happened. Like, if that had happened here, Republicans would have let Trump declare martial law and just write it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, even like the accountability checks that are in our system aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably know this. Like, did our founding fathers want a one person to run the country? Was that like the original idea?
I think so. You got 3 branches, and the executive branch is headed by the president, right?
Yeah.
But I think they were so paranoid of that person becoming like the de facto king.
Yeah.
That's why I think they were right to feel that way. I think it's really great that Washington had no children, was probably sterile. I
Yeah.
think it's one of the best things that could happen to us.
Because
right?
they would have been like, oh, his son should be next to
Because
Mark.
we like familiarity, dude. And the second president, John Adams, his son became president too. Like we went right
because
back
it was
into
John
that stuff.
Adams, there was one other president, then there was John Quincy, right?
It was Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe.
Then
Quincy
John
Adams.
Quincy Adams.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, folks, this was the most middle-aged man podcast. You know where we deviated though, because we were talking about lifting weights, we were talking about wars.
Yeah, how did we get
I was
here?
talking about my bad shoulder, but then we were a little too liberal, so we can't. We're not Fox News dads, as Shane Gillis would say. But
yeah, like,
we're MSNBC dads.
yeah, are we like
Or-
suburban Chicago dads?
I
You know?
think so.
Like we're definitely like suburban big city
Mhm.
divorced dads, the podcast.
Yeah. So, guys, if you want to follow Bo and being a newly divorced dad, how do they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at BoboBallew.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Follow Bo everywhere. He's a great follow. If you're ever in the Myrtle Wyckoff Planet Fitness,
Stop by, say hello.
well, he doesn't want you to say hello, apparently.
yeah, or don't. That's fine too. Yeah, just know I'm there.
And remember, folks, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm just plain night owls. You know I love you.
Thank you.